Hello everyone, welcome! From red carpets to courtroom drama, Darcey Silva and Georgi Russer's relationship was never ordinary. What began as a whirlwind romance on day Fiancé spiraled into betrayal, heartbreak, and scandal. But what really happened behind the scenes? This is the untold story of secret affairs, financial deception, and emotional collapse. Buckle up. This isn't just reality TV. It's reality. Yes, you heard it right. For the past months, Darcey Silva had been secretly involved in a romantic relationship with a banker named Thomas. What started as a private affair soon turned into a deep romance. After learning about Darcey Silva's hidden financial troubles, Thomas promised to take full responsibility for paying off her secret debt of $. Following this, their bond grew even stronger. They spent several occasions together at five-star hotels, revealing the depth of their relationship. A few weeks later, Darcey Silva discovered she was pregnant. Medical tests confirmed that the baby she was carrying shared Thomas's DNA. When Georgi Russev learned the shocking news, he suffered immense emotional distress. Heated arguments and conflicts followed, leading Darcey Silva to ultimately divorce Georgi Russev. Darcey Silva made her intentions clear, greater than, "I only want to marry Thomas." Unable to bear the betrayal, Georgi Russev attempted suicide. Later, he accused Darcey Silva of embezzling $1 of his savings and giving it to Thomas. The case went to court, and after a lengthy hearing, the court found Georgi Russev's allegations to be true. As a result, Darcey Silva was sentenced to months in prison. Georgi Russev has now made a decision. He will get married again. Let's start from the beginning. Darcey Silva had always been a magnet for attention with her platinum blonde hair, designer wardrobe, and emotional vulnerability. She was reality TV gold. From day Fiancé to her spin-off Darcey and Stacey, viewers watched her chase love across continents, often with heartbreak in town. Then came Georgi Russev, tall, handsome, and soft-spoken. Georgi was a Bulgarian massa living in the U.S. when he met Darcey. Their chemistry was instant. He was different from her past lovers, more grounded, less flashy. Darcey saw in him a chance for stability, for real love. Georgi, in turn, was drawn to her ambition and her heart. Their relationship moved fast. Within months, they were engaged. Fans were divided. Some saw Georgi as a calming presence. Others questioned his motives. But Darcey was Alan. She flaunted their romance on social media, calling him her forever love. Behind the scenes, though, cracks were forming. Georgi struggled with Darcey's need for constant validation. Darcey, haunted by past betrayals, grew suspicious of Georgi's quiet nature. Arguments erupted over money, loyalty, and Georgi's reluctance to open up. Still, they tried to make it work. They broke up, then got back together, then broke up again. Each reconciliation felt like a fresh start, each breakup a deeper wound. Their love story became a cycle of hope and disappointment until the cameras stopped rolling and Darcey made a choice that would change everything. She met Thomas. But before we dive into that secret affair, we need to understand what made Darcey vulnerable to it. Her relationship with Georgi wasn't just romantic. It was a mirror reflecting her deepest fears. And when that mirror cracked, she looked elsewhere for comfort. At first glance, Darcey and Georgi seemed like a match made in reality TV heaven. Their chemistry was undeniable. Their Instagram posts painted a picture of bliss, and their appearances on Darcey and Stacey gave fans hope that Darcey had finally found the one. But behind the filtered selfies and romantic captions, their relationship was quietly unraveling. Georgi Rusev was a man of few words. He preferred silence over confrontation. Come over. Chaos. Darcey, on the other hand, thrived on emotional connection and constant reassurance. She needed transparency, vulnerability, and, above all, trust. And that's where the cracks began to form. Darcey started noticing Georgi's evasiveness. He'd disappear for hours without explanation. His phone was always face down. When she asked about his finances, he grew defensive. Rumors swirled that Georgi was hiding money, possibly even communicating with his ex-wife. Darcey's insecurities, already fragile from past relationships, began to spiral. Their arguments became more frequent and more public. On one episode, Darcey confronted Georgi about his lack of emotional openness. He responded with silence. Fans watched as Darcey broke down in tears, pleading for honesty. Georgi's stoic demeanor only fueled speculation. Was he using her for fame, for money, or was he simply emotionally unavailable? Behind closed doors, things were worse. Darcey confided in close friends that she felt alone in the relationship. Georgi, she claimed, was cold, distant, and unwilling to build a future together. She wanted marriage, children, and a shared life. He wanted space. Their goals no longer aligned. Financial tension added fuel to the fire. Darcey had invested heavily in her fashion brand, House of, and was juggling mounting expenses. Georgi, meanwhile, was vague about his income. When Darcey asked for help managing her debt, Georgi refused. That moment, she later said, changed everything. It was during this emotional low point that Darcey met Thomas. He wasn't just a banker. He was a listener. He asked about her dreams, her fears, her past. He didn't judge her for her reality TV fame. He saw the woman behind the brand. And most importantly, he offered something Georgi never had. Stability. Darcey didn't plan to fall in love. But when someone shows up during your darkest hour and offers light, it's hard to resist. Her affair with Thomas began quietly. A few texts, a coffee date, a weekend getaway. But soon it became the center of her emotional world. She stopped checking Georgi's messages. She canceled couples therapy. She began spending nights away from home. Georgi noticed and confronted her, but Darcey had already made up her mind. She was done waiting for Georgi to change. While Darcey Silva's relationship with Georgi Rusev was publicly unraveling, another story was quietly unfolding behind closed doors. One that would change everything. It started innocently. Enough. A charity gala in New York, a swirl of champagne and designer gowns. Darcey, emotionally drained from her latest fight with Georgi, attended alone. That night, she met Thomas, a sharply dressed banker with a calm demeanor and piercing eyes. He wasn't part of the reality TV world. He didn't ask for selfies or mention day fiancé. He simply asked, "Are you okay?" That question lingered. Thomas was different. He didn't chase fame. He didn't flinch at Darcey's vulnerability. He listened, really listened. Over the next few weeks, they exchanged texts, then calls, then quiet dinners in tucked-away restaurants where no one recognized her. Darcey felt safe, seen, understood. Their connection deepened quickly. Thomas had a way of making Darcey forget the chaos of her public life. He spoke of stability, legacy, and building a future. Words Darcey hadn't heard in years. She confided in him about her financial stress, the emotional toll of her relationship with Georgi, and the pressure of maintaining her brand. Then came the moment that changed everything. One evening over dinner at a rooftop lounge, Darcey broke down. She revealed the full extent of her financial troubles, a staggering $1 in hidden debt. She expected judgment, maybe even pity, but Thomas simply reached across the table and said, "I'll take care of it." Darcey was stunned. No one had ever offered her that kind of unconditional support. Georgi had refused to help. Past partners had walked away, but Thomas leaned in. Within days, he began making payments. Quietly, discreetly. No press, no drama, just action. Their relationship intensified. They spent weekends at five-star hotels, escaping the noise of Darcey's reality TV world. Thomas introduced her to his inner circle, polished professionals, not influencers. Darcey felt like she had stepped into a new life, one where she wasn't just a reality star. She was a woman in love. But secrets have a way of surfacing. Darcey hadn't told Georgi. Not about Thomas, not about the debt, not about the hotel stays. She was living two lives, one for the cameras and one for herself. And as her bond with Thomas grew stronger, her connection with Georgi grew colder. She stopped answering Georgi's calls. She skipped filming days. She began pulling away from her brand, her show, her public persona. Thomas became her anchor and her escape. Then, just as things seemed to settle, Darcey received news that would shake her world again. Darcey Silva had always lived large designer clothes, luxury cars, high-end beauty treatments. Her lifestyle was aspirational, curated for the cameras and her millions of followers. But behind the glam facade, a storm had been brewing for years, and only one man knew the truth, Thomas. It happened one quiet evening in Miami. Darcey and Thomas were lounging in a suite at the Four Seasons, sipping wine, and watching the city lights flicker below. She had been distant all day, distracted. Thomas noticed. He leaned in and asked, "What's really going on?" Darcey hesitated. Then, with tears in her eyes, she confessed she was drowning in debt. $1, to be exact. A mix of unpaid business loans, personal credit cards, and legal fees from past relationships. She had kept it hidden from Georgi, from her family, even from her twin sister Stacey. The weight of it was crushing her. Thomas didn't flinch. He didn't judge. He simply asked, "How much do you need to breathe again?" Darcey was stunned. No one had ever offered her help without strings attached. She had spent years being the provider, the fixer, the woman who held everything together. But now, someone was offering to hold her. Within days, Thomas began making payments. Quietly, strategically, he contacted her. Creditors negotiated settlements and wired funds. Darcey watched in disbelief as the mountain of debt began to shrink. For the first time in years, she felt hope. Their relationship deepened. Thomas wasn't just a lover. He became her financial lifeline. They traveled together, stayed in luxury resorts, and began talking about a future beyond the chaos. Darcey started imagining a life without cameras, without drama, just peace. But secrets have consequences. Darcey hadn't told Georgi. He still believed they were working on their relationship. He had no idea she was spending nights with another man or that someone else was paying off her debts. The deception grew heavier with each passing day. Darcey tried to justify it. Georgi had refused to help. He had distanced himself emotionally and financially. Thomas, on the other hand, had stepped in without hesitation. She told herself it wasn't betrayal. It was survival. But deep down, she knew the truth. She was building a new life on the ruins of the old one. And eventually, Georgi would find out. 4. Now, though Darcey was floating, the weight of debt was lifting. Her heart was healing. And Thomas was by her side, promising more than just money. He was promising forever. Darcey Silva had been living in two worlds. In one, she was the reality TV star trying to salvage a crumbling relationship with Georgi Rusev. In the other, she was quietly building a new life with Thomas, the banker, who had swept her off her feet and rescued her from financial ruin. But nothing could have prepared her for what came next. It started with fatigue. Darcey felt drained, dizzy, and emotionally off balance. At first, she chalked it up to stress, the pressure of hiding her affair, the guilt of deceiving Georgi, and the whirlwind of her public life. But when the symptoms persisted, she decided to see a doctor. The results were clear. Darcey was pregnant. She stared at the test results in disbelief. She hadn't expected this. Her mind raced. Could it be Georgi's? No, they hadn't been intimate in months. There was only one possibility. Thomas. She called him immediately. Thomas was silent for a moment. Then, with calm certainty, he said, "We'll figure this out together." He didn't panic. He didn't run. He booked a private appointment with a top OB-GYN in Manhattan. The DNA test confirmed what they both suspected. The baby was his. Darcey was overwhelmed. A mix of fear, joy, and uncertainty flooded her. She had spent years chasing love, enduring heartbreak, and rebuilding herself. Now she was carrying a child, a symbol of new beginnings, but also a ticking time bomb. Because Georgi didn't know, Darcey debated turning him. She rehearsed the conversation in her head. The confession, the fallout, the tears. But before she could speak, Georgi found out another way. A mutual friend had seen Darcey and Thomas at a prenatal clinic. Word spread fast. Within days, Georgi confronted her. "What's going on?" he demanded. "Are you pregnant?" Darcey froze, then nodded. Georgi's face collapsed. He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He just stared as if the ground beneath him had vanished. The betrayal was complete. Not only had Darcey cheated, but she was carrying another man's child. The confrontation turned ugly. Accusations flew. Georgi demanded answers. Darcey tried to explain, but her words fell flat. The man who had once promised her forever was now a stranger. Broken, furious, and lost. That night, Georgi packed his things and left. Darcey watched him go, hand resting on her stomach, heart heavy with regret. She had chosen Thomas. She had chosen a new life, but the cost was steep, and the consequences were only beginning. The silence between Darcey Silva and Georgi Rusev was deafening. After the pregnancy revelation, Georgi vanished from Darcey's life. No texts, no calls, no closure. What had once been a passionate, if turbulent, love story had now crumbled into cold avoidance and emotional wreckage. Darcey tried to move forward. She focused on her pregnancy, leaned on Thomas, and attempted to shield herself from the media frenzy that followed the news. But the truth was, she was haunted not by regret, but by the weight of what she had done. She had broken Georgi's heart, and she knew it. Meanwhile, Georgi was spiraling. Friends close to him described a man in free fall. He stopped working. He stopped eating. He isolated himself in his apartment, blinds drawn, phone off. The betrayal had gutted him. He had believed in Darcey, defended her when others doubted her, stood by her through public scrutiny, and now she was carrying another man's child. The final blow came when Darcey served him divorce papers. It wasn't a conversation. It wasn't a mutual decision. It was a legal envelope dropped at his door with a note that read, "Greater than, I'm sorry. I only want to marry Thomas." Georgi didn't cry. He didn't scream. He just stared at the paper. Numb. The woman he had once called his soulmate had chosen someone else, and she was gone. The divorce proceedings were swift. Darcey's legal team pushed for a keen break. No alimony, no shared assets, no contact. Georgi, still reeling, didn't fight it. He signed the papers in silence. But the emotional damage was done. In a rare interview months later, Georgi admitted, "I didn't just lose a partner. I lost my sense of self." He spoke of sleepless nights, panic attacks, and a deep sense of betrayal. He had given everything to Darcey, his love, his trust, his future. And in return, he felt discarded. Darcey, for her part, remained quiet. Publicly, she focused on her pregnancy and her relationship with Thomas. Privately, she wrestled with guilt. She had never intended to hurt Georgi, but she also knew she couldn't go back. The divorce was finalized in under months. No fanfare, no press. Release, just a quiet end to a very public love story. But the story wasn't over because Georgi was about to make a shocking accusation. One that would drag Darcey back into the spotlight, not as a reality star, but as a defendant. And this time, the cameras wouldn't be rolling, the courtroom would. The news of Darcey Silva's pregnancy hit Georgi Rusev like a tidal wave. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the final confirmation that the woman he had loved, fought for, and envisioned a future with had moved on. And not just emotionally, physically, permanently, Georgi withdrew from the world. Friends tried reaching out. Calls went unanswered. Messages were left unread. He stopped posting on social media, stopped showing up to work, and reportedly canceled all public appearances. The man who once stood tall beside Darcey on red carpets now lived in shadows. According to close sources, Georgi began exhibiting signs of severe emotional distress. He stopped eating. He barely slept. He refused to speak to anyone about what had happened. The betrayal had broken something inside him, something he couldn't repair. Then came the darkest moment. One evening, Georgi was found unconscious in his apartment by a concerned friend who had come to check on him. Emergency services were called. He was rushed to the hospital. The diagnosis, a suicide attempt. The news sent shockwaves through the gay Fiancé community. Fans flooded social media with messages of support, heartbreak, and disbelief. Many had seen Georgi as stoic, even distant, but now they saw the depth of his pain. Darcey was notified immediately. She was devastated. Despite everything, the affair, the pregnancy, the divorce, she had never wanted Georgi to suffer like this. She released a brief statement through her publicist. "Greater than, I am heartbroken. I pray for Georgi's healing and peace. Thomas too, remain silent." The couple retreated from the spotlight, focusing on Darcey's health and the baby's development, but the guilt lingered. Darcey knew her choices had consequences. She just hadn't expected them to be this severe. Georgi spent several weeks in recovery. He was placed under psychiatric care and began therapy. Slowly, he started to speak. Again, not to the media, but to himself. He journaled. He meditated. He began the painful process of healing. In a private interview months later, Georgi shared, "Greater than, I didn't want to die. I just didn't know how to live with the pain." His honesty struck a chord. Mental health advocates praised his vulnerability. Fans rallied behind him, and slowly Georgi began to rebuild. But the story wasn't over, because as Georgi healed, he began to reflect not just on the emotional betrayal, but on the financial one. He started reviewing his accounts, his savings, his investments, and what he discovered would spark a legal firestorm. He claimed Ree had embezzled dollar from his personal savings and given it to Thomas. And this time, he wasn't, staying silent. As Georgi Rusev emerged from the emotional wreckage of his suicide attempt, something shifted. Therapy had helped him process the heartbreak. Time had dulled the sting of betrayal, but one question kept at him. Where had all his money gone? Georgi had always been cautious with his finances. While Darcey lived lavishly, he preferred simplicity. He had saved diligently earnings from massage therapy, modeling gigs, and brand endorsements. But when he checked his accounts, something didn't add up. Dollar was missing. At first, Georgi thought it was a banking error. He contacted his financial advisor, combed through statements, and reviewed transfers. What he found stunned him. Multiple withdrawals and wire transfers made during the final months of his relationship with Darcey. The recipient, a private account linked to Thomas. Georgi's heart sank. He remembered the arguments about money, Darcey's vague explanations, her sudden luxury hotel stays, the expensive gifts, the debt she never mentioned. It all clicked. Fueled by a mix of anger and clarity, Georgi filed a formal complaint. He accused Darcey Silva of embezzling dollar from his savings and funneling it to Thomas, the man she had left him for. The case was explosive. The media pounced. Headlines screamed, "Darcey Silva accused of stealing dollar from ex-husband Georgi Rusev. Day Fiancé star faces legal firestorm over secret transfers." Darcey denied the allegations. Her legal team claimed the money had been gifted during their relationship and that Georgi had consented to the transfers. But Georgi had receipts, literal ones. He presented bank statements, text messages, and voice recordings that painted a different picture. Thomas, meanwhile, remained silent. He refused interviews, declined subpoenas, and disappeared from public view. His absence only fueled speculation. Was he complicit, or was Darcey acting alone? The case went to court. Fans of Day Fiancé would allude to the drama. Social media lit up with theories, support, and outrage. Some defended Darcey, citing her history of emotional vulnerability. Others sided with Georgi, praising his courage and demanding justice. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was tense. Darcey appeared composed, but visibly shaken. Georgi, once quiet and reserved, spoke with conviction. He described the betrayal, the emotional collapse, and the financial devastation. His testimony was raw, powerful, and damning. The prosecution presented a timeline of transfers matched with Darcey's travel, records, and hotel stays. The evidence was overwhelming. Darcey's defense crumbled after weeks of hearings. The judge delivered the verdict. Darcey Silva was found guilty of embezzlement. She was sentenced to months in prison. The courtroom fell silent. Darcey lowered her head. Georgi closed his eyes. The saga that had begun as a love story on reality TV had ended in a courtroom with handcuffs, heartbreak, and headlines. But even as Darcey prepared to serve her sentence, Georgi wasn't done. He had One more chapter to write, one that would surprise everyone. He was ready to love again. The courthouse in Stamford, Connecticut, was buzzing with reporters, fans, and curious onlookers. It wasn't just another celebrity scandal. It was the climax of a love story turned legal war. Darcey Silva, once the queen of reality romance, now stood accused of embezzling dollar from her ex-husband, Georgi. The courtroom was packed. Darcey entered, first dressed in a muted gray pantsuit, her signature lashes toned down, her expression unreadable. Behind her, Thomas sat quietly, avoiding eye contact with the cameras. Georgi arrived minutes later, flanked by his legal team, his face stoic but visibly thinner. The man who once whispered sweet nothings on Darcey and Stacey now looked like a man hardened by betrayal. The trial began with opening statements. Georgi's attorney painted a picture of calculated dissection, a woman who used her partner's trust to fund a secret affair. They presented financial records, showing large withdrawals from Georgi's accounts, all made during the final months of their relationship. The money, they claimed, was funneled to Thomas' private investment firm. Darcey's defense argued otherwise. They claimed the funds were shared assets used during the course of their relationship with Georgi's verbal consent. They portrayed Darcey as a woman under immense emotional and financial pressure, manipulated by circumstances, not malicious intent. Then came the witnesses. Georgi took the stand first. His voice trembled at times, but his words were clear. He spoke of his love for Darcey, his confusion when she began pulling away, and the shock of discovering the missing money greater than, "I didn't just lose my savings." He said, "I lost my trust in people." Darcey's turn on the stand was equally emotional. She admitted to the affair, to the financial help from Thomas, and to hiding her debt from Georgi, but she denied ever stealing from him. Greater than, "I made mistakes," she said, eyes glistening, "but I never meant to hurt him like this." The most dramatic moment came when the prosecution introduced a series of voice recordings, private conversations between Darcey and Thomas, discussing moving the funds quickly and keeping Georgi out of it. The courtroom fell silent. Darcey's face went pale. Thomas was called to testify, but invoked his Fifth Amendment right, refusing to answer questions that might incriminate him. His silence spoke volumes. After 2 weeks of testimony, the jury deliberated for just 6 hours. The verdict, guilty. Darcey Silva was convicted of embezzlement and sentenced to months in prison. The judge cited a pattern of deceit and financial manipulation as aggravating factors. Darcey's legal team requested leniency, citing her pregnancy and mental health, but the sentence stood. Outside the courthouse, Georgi gave a brief statement. Greater than this wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. Darcey was escorted out in handcuffs, her head held high, but her future uncertain. The woman who once searched for love on television had now become a cautionary tale, a reminder that secrets, no matter how well hidden, always find the light. But even as the courtroom emptied and the headlines faded, one question lingered. What would become of Darcey Silva after prison? And could Georgi ever truly move on? The woman who once graced red carpets and reality TV screens now wore a beige jumpsuit and answered to a number. Darcey Silva, fashion, entrepreneur, influencer, and day finance at Icon, had officially begun. Her month prison sentence. She was processed at a minimum security women's facility in Connecticut, No cameras, no glam squad, no designer heels, just cold, concrete fluorescent lights, and the echo of steel doors locking behind her. For the first time in years, Darcey was completely alone. No entourage, no twin. Sister Stacey, no Thomas. The adjustment was brutal. Darcey struggled with the loss of control. Her days were dictated by routine. Wake-ups, group meals, mandatory chores. She shared a cell with two other women, neither of whom recognized her from television. In a strange way, that anonymity was a relief. She wasn't a celebrity here. She was just another inmate. But the emotional toll was heavy. Darcey was pregnant. The stress of incarceration weighed on her body and mind. She worried constantly about her baby's health, about the media frenzy outside, about her daughters, and about the future she had once imagined with Thomas. Letters from fans poured in, some supportive, others scathing. She read them all. She kept a journal. Each night she wrote about her regrets, her fears, and her hopes. She wrote about Georgi, the man she had once loved, the man she had betrayed. She didn't excuse her actions, but she tried to understand them. Greater than I was drowning, she wrote, and I reached for the wrong hand. Inside prison, Darcey found unlikely allies. A former nurse taught her breathing techniques to manage anxiety. A fellow inmate who had lost custody of her children became a confidant. Slowly, Darcey began to adapt. She joined a prenatal care group. She attended therapy sessions. She even led a workshop on self-esteem and personal branding, a strange but healing experience. Meanwhile, the outside world moved on. Thomas kept a low profile. He visited once briefly, but rumors swirled that their relationship had cooled. Some speculated he was distancing himself to protect his career. Others believed he was simply overwhelmed. Darcey never confirmed either way. Georgi, on the other hand, remained silent. He made no public statements, gave no interviews, but sources close to him said he was watching, not with vengeance, but with quiet closure. The woman who had once broken him was now facing the consequences of her choices. As the months passed, Darcey changed. She lost weight. Her skin cleared. Her tone softened. She spoke less about fame and more about forgiveness. She began planning for life after prison, not as a reality star, but as a mother. She wanted to rebuild, to make amends, to start over. When her release date finally arrived, there were no paparazzi, no press conference, just a quiet walk through the gates, a duffel bag in hand, and a baby bump beneath her coat. Darcey Silva was free, but freedom came with questions. Could she rebuild her brand? Would the public forgive her? And most importantly, was Thomas still waiting? Let us know in the comments. More update. Day Fiancé. Darcey ends marriage with Georgi after he breaks down due to baby pressure. And Darcey and Georgi clash over having kids in new episode of Happily Ever After. Darcey Silva teases new journey amid split rumors with Georgi, leaving America permanently, and Georgi regret losing good years of his life due to Darcey. Hints at new secret plans. I will explain everything. Darcey Silva, star of Day Fiancé, ended her romance with Georgi after he revealed his desire to have a family. His expression betrayed his distress at the prospect of a large family. His admirers have noticed that when he met his sister in Bulgaria, she brought up the subject. She expressed her worries to the couple and decided against having children in the end. Also, by bringing up the fact that Darcey is twice her brother's age, Georgie's sister came across as harsh against her. Because of this, she was concerned that their age gap might eventually create a problem for their marriage. This may have sunk deep into Stacey's twin soul, and she was compelled to weep and gripe all the way through her journey. Georgi, did Darcey grant her a divorce? Are they actually gone? The romance between Darcey Silva and Georgi Rusev on night day because he keeps putting the kids before her. My fiancé has struck rock bottom. They argued often while he was in Bulgaria visiting his parents and relatives because they were always pressuring him. His wife would become agitated every time they began arguing. For some supporters, this represents a clash of cultures. The thing that has Darcey and Georgi in a knot isn't what either of them desires. The most recent episode of season of Happily Ever After included her, reminding him of his previous statements about his inability to have children. Therefore, there came a moment when his change of heart was too much for her to handle. He confessed that it was the thing he had been doubting, and she assured him that he could count on her unwavering support. The most recent argument between Darcey Silva and Georgi Rusev on Day Fiancé was the most disastrous one so far. During their contentious argument about the children, she stood up for herself. She came out and said she can't satisfy her husband's demands. He was getting close to telling her about his difficulty when she cut him off. This annoyed him. It frightened Darcey when Georgi yelled at her. He confided in her about his vulnerabilities and how he used to be unable to speak up for fear of hurting himself. She was adamant that they would end their marriage. He tried to reassure her with hugs and profanity, but she stopped him. She pushed him away and insisted on living her own life. Georgi was told the truth by Darcey, who said, "I will find something else, and you will not be a part of that." Despite his bewilderment, she twice politely requested that he cease squandering her time. "I have done enough," the American citizen continued. "I will proceed. Permit me to be at peace." He tried to reassure her, but she didn't do the same. To assist ease the stress, Darcey suggested that Georgi think about starting a family, despite his insistence that they could resolve their differences amicably. She informed him that they may end their marriage and go on. She turned her back on him as she left the restaurant, wondering if their marriage had a chance. Darcey and Georgi clash over having kids in new episode of Happily Ever After. Top stars of Day Fiancé. This time around, the feud between Georgi Rusev and Darcey Silva centers on the topic of establishing a family. The discord in their marriage is about to burst. He and she have been at odds over money and her influence over him. In his mind, his wife is just a punchline, and he feels like she's been taken advantage of in order to get a green card and live the American dream. Yeah, it's true that Darcey has been Georgi's sugar mommy. Seemingly, she weighed the considerably younger native Bulgarian for his good looks, along with agreeing to live with her forever. He may have done it to increase his financial standing. As a result, the audience views them as incompatible in the end. Georgi Russo's attitude toward Darcey has transformed once he settled in the United States. He was asked to provide an update on their relationship status by her. In the most recent episode of season of Day Fiancé, Happily Ever After, he deprived her of serenity and caused her stress soon after their angry confrontation in the hotel room. Georgi allegedly left Darcey alone in the middle of the night after they argued. Upon waking up in the morning, she discovered that he had vanished. She thought he hadn't gone back to sleep. Stacey told her that her spouse is acting strange after she confided in her about her concerns. More frightened than before, Darcey messaged him to inquire as to his location. His long-awaited response was that she is skilled at acting romantically. Happy ever after. The next episode of Fiancé features Georgi and Darcey Silva's heated argument over having a family together. Recalling their earlier conversation, she stated he expressed his reluctance to assume responsibility and ended the conversation. Regardless of the circumstances, Darcey has stated that they are unable to have a family. A child was never mentioned by him to Georgi as something he hoped to have. Soon that he just couldn't shake the idea was the main problem. According to him, it's a constant source of discomfort. He proceeded to express his frustration by saying he had attempted to express his emotions to her, but she persisted in ignoring him. Surprisingly, Darcey, who appears to be inebriated, turned her back on Georgi and claimed she is unable to grant his wishes along with his sister prodding him. She noticed that he has developed an unexpected concern for the children. He became quite enraged by this, and she covered her ears with her hands. He frightened her with his actions, telling Darcey that he was once more approachable. Georgi yelled at her at one time. When other individuals didn't value him or his emotions, he despised them. Therefore, he stopped discussing his inner thoughts. She remained silent throughout. Her many admirers were quick to criticize her in the video, saying she put herself first before her relationship. Darcey Silva teases new journey amid split rumors with Georgi, leaving America permanently. It looks like Darcey Silva is prepared for a new phase of her life. She just discussed her ideas for the future and teased people about her upcoming trip. The Fire star appears prepared to move to America in order to start over. Despite reports that she and her husband Georgi are divorcing between Darcey and her partner on HA, things are becoming more complicated. She has had enough of his lack of openness and communication. During the show, the reality TV personality even used the D word. Indeed, in the midst of the current season's drama, Darcey requested Georgi for a divorce. She is upset with him since he did not try to keep their marriage together with her Bulgarian companion. The TLC singer never had the most wholesome path. Darcey and Georgi's marriage is facing some significant difficulties, though. Have they already ended their relationship? Does Darcey intend to relocate abroad? Darcey Silva has decided that she will no longer attempt to save her relationship, and new optimism filled her as she traveled to Bulgaria. However, throughout the trip, the Fiancé star witnessed her husband's true nature. Both Georgi's ambitions to purchase a home in Bulgaria had his advancement at work were concealed. He'd also criticized her on the television and had numerous tantrums about her attire. In addition to discussing the TLC star's greedy side, Darcey revealed that in order to get her boyfriend to pay the rent, she had to include her father in a company. Afterwards, Georgi and Darcey had a supper to talk about their problems. When her partner refused to improve himself, the former became irate with him. When he persisted in berating her and playing the blame game, she requested a divorce from him. Then, don't get married. The TLC personality said, file for a divorce. Darcey Silva can't afford to continue moping over her broken romance. She reprimanded Georgi, her partner, for being rude and self-centered on HTA. It also seemed to the reality TV star that he was attempting to divorce her. So Darcey stopped circling the issue and urged her partner to file for divorce. Her Instagram story recently sparked suspicions that she was breaking up with someone. Her picture of herself standing in a seductive white pattern gown was uploaded by her, posing in her plunging neckline. She looked gorgeous. Darcey's journey, this reality TV personality wrote. Silva said she was looking forward to what the future had in store. She also requested that her admirers let her know which nation she should next relocate to. I am eager to embark on my next adventure, the Fiancé star said. Darcey has not disclosed why such a significant choice was made. In America, she has been managing house of, alongside her twin sister, Stacey. The reality TV star hasn't disclosed if she was considering moving or taking a vacation. Darcey's social media post, however, gave a hint that she might be moving abroad permanently. She may be finished with her relationship and has made the decision to begin a new phase of her life. With so many plans for this year, the reality TV star is busy. Additionally, this year, Darcey and her sister made the decision to get a breast reduction operation. Fans are anxious to hear about her latest developments and dating status. Georgi regret losing good years of his life due to Darcey hints at new secret plans. Finally, revealing the truth and teasing his grand scheme is Georgi Rusev. He seems to have finished keeping his true identity a secret from his wife Darcey Silva. With the latter, the Fiancé star said that he felt like squandering his good years. All of a sudden, Georgi finds fault with Darcey and won't talk about his issues. Georgi labeled her broke during a heated fight and threw massive tantrums over her attire. The American native was not informed of the TLC star's financial situation or future ambitions. Darcey is starting to acknowledge that her marriage has been unstable. She can't believe her husband's actual nature, though. How is she going to act? Did Georgi actually get rid of her? The news of Georgi's enigmatic actions devastated Darcey Silva. He was secretly intending to purchase a property in Bulgaria, and she couldn't believe it. The star of Fiancé felt caught off guard and surmised that her partner might not have intended to involve her in his future plans. Other information of her marital life were later disclosed by Darcey. She revealed that after coming back from Bulgaria, the rent was due. However, Georgi was not returning the American native's texts or answering her phone. Silva was therefore forced to seek Georgi for the money and add her father to a group. The reality TV star was taken aback by her partner's prompt payment. According to the reality TV personality, Georgi also insisted on receiving half of the proceeds from the trip to Bulgaria. Stacey didn't waste any time in accusing her brother-in-law of being avaricious. It appears that Georgia and Darcey can't resolve their problems on happily ever after. His wife's request for the rent in front of her father infuriated the former. In the latest teaser, the reality TV stars were seen arguing in front of her father. Georgi believed Darcey was attempting to paint him as a villain. During the vacation, he chastised his wife for doing the same in front of his parents. According to the Fiancé actor, his wife takes great pleasure in portraying him as the problem in their marriage. Darcey thinks her spouse is planning to break up with her at the perfect time. It might be the reason he hasn't been telling her about his finances. She believes while riding in the back of the car with her husband, Florian, Stacey also expressed her opinion and agreed with her sister. It's a little red flag, she observed. The reality TV personality believed that her brother-in-law should not spend their childhood. However, Georgi's remark left everyone stunned. In fact, I'm wasting my good years, he said. Florian found the TLC star's remark amusing. He can't comprehend Georgi and Darcey's relationship. There are good days and bad days, the TLC personality said. Darcey made an effort to stop Georgi's cruel remarks from getting away with it. She considers herself fantastic, and the American native is delighted to be raising her daughter by herself and owning her own business, according to People. Along with supporting her sister, Stacey advised Georgi to let them know in advance if it was his covered scheme. No more today. What are you thinking about this gossip today? Let us know in the comments, and stay tuned by subscribing to our channel to get more updates like this. Thank you.